Here's a story about human nature, and it's a sad story, so pay attention. Once upon a time, a little mouse, a little bird, and a sausage were very close, and since buying their own house each was too expensive, they came together and set up in a rented house, and each with their own room. For a long time the going was good, and they lived together in peace and happiness. And they managed to get by. In fact, you could say that they prospered, and for them, everything was gravy. The household tasks were shared between them according to their talents. The bird's job was to fly into the forest every day and bring back wood. The mouse had to carry water, light the fire and set the table, while the sausage did the cooking. Now here's a true thing. If things go too well for folk, they always look for improvement and a little bit more of the good things and a general easing of their condition. So, one day, as the bird was flying about, he came upon another bird, and our bird boasted and told this other bloke about his superb situation. But the other bird called him a poor mug because he had to do most of the work, while the other two friends had the easier life. For instance, after the mouse started the fire and carried the water into the house, she generally went to her little room and rested until she was called to set the table. The sausage stayed by the pot and kept an eye on the cooking, and right at mealtime she slid through the stew or vegetables to make sure that everything was salted, seasoned and ready to eat. All this while the bird was doing the heavy lifting by bringing wood, without which none of the other tasks would be possible. And this set the bird on an unhealthy path of pondering. As soon as the bird came home and laid down his bundle, they would sit down at the table and, after finishing the meal, they would sleep soundly until the next morning. Such was their glorious life, and if there'd been any sense in the world, no one would have tried to fix a thing like that if it wasn't broken. However, our bird had been disturbed by what Matey Boy Bird had said the previous day, and told his companions that he had been their slave long enough and he wasn't prepared to be taken for a mug anymore. He wanted them to change and to try another system, as you can imagine, one more favourable to Bird. No matter how long the mouse and the sausage vehemently argued against this, the bird dominated and insisted that they try a new way. So they drew lots, which seemed fairer to the bird, and it fell upon the sausage to get the wood. The mouse became cook, and the bird was to fetch water. Well, what happened? After the sausage went to fetch the wood, the bird started the fire and the mouse put the kettle on the stove. Then they waited for the sausage to return home with the wood for the next day. So far, so good. However, the sausage was gone for such a long time that the other two started to get anxious, and the bird flew out a little way to meet him. Not far from their home, the sausage had encountered a dog. Now this dog considered the sausage fair game and an opportunity, the like of which doesn't present itself every day. So, carpe diem, or seize the sausage as you might say. He grabbed him and swallowed him down, and for the sausage, there was no coming back from a thing like that. The bird arrived and accused the dog of highway robbery, but it was no use, for the dog maintained he had found forged letters on the sausage, and therefore the sausage had had to pay for this with his life. No way would that stand up in court, but the dog was in no position to compensate them for the loss of the sausage, so all that could be done was to sadly pick up the wood and carry it back home. He told the mouse what he had seen and heard, and they were both very distressed. Nevertheless, they agreed to do the best they could and stay together. Meanwhile, the bird set the table and the mouse prepared the meal. She intended to put the finishing touches on it by seasoning it and sliding through the vegetables the way that the sausage used to do. But before she even reached the middle of the vegetables, she got stuck in a cabbage leaf, and instead of flavouring the stew, she became an integral part of it. And that was the last chore the mouse ever attempted. When the bird came to serve the meal, there was no cook. He became so upset that he scattered wood all over the place, calling and searching for the mouse, but his cook was nowhere to be seen. Since the bird was so distracted with worry, he didn't notice that the wood had caught fire and the house went up in flames. The bird rushed out to fetch some water, but the bucket slipped and fell into the well. The rope sped past the bird behind the bucket and snagged Bird on its way, so that the bird, with all his friends lost and his house on fire, was catapulted down into the well in a most violent fashion. Badly knocked about, he couldn't manage to get himself out, and all that was left for the poor, misguided, feathery tenant was to drown.